Single chair.
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, July 21st, 2026 Clay County Planning and Zoning meeting. Tonight we'll hear a staff presentation regarding the Clay County Compass 2040 Comprehensive Plan, to be followed by a discussion. This is informational only. No votes will be taken by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Could we begin tonight with a roll call?
Larry Yateman.
Here.
Joanne Lawson.
Here.
Tom Decker.
Here.
Mark Beggs.
Present.
Tom Degenhart.
Here.
David Rodas.
Here.
And Chairman Randall Morris.
Here. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, and I appreciate everybody being flexible. It was my fault that the meeting got moved, so I apologize, but appreciate everybody being here tonight. So we are going to talk about Clay County Compass 2040, the new comprehensive plan that was adopted last year. So why are we discussing this? I felt like taking a deep breath once it was adopted, but that's really only the first step. So it was adopted in February of last year. The next step is to implement the plan. One of the primary implementation tools that we'll talk about tonight is the Land Development Code, which are the county's daily rules and regulations that need to be amended to align with the newly adopted comprehensive plan. And so today's presentation kind of kicks off this process or starts that discussion with staff and the board. So why should it be reviewed? This is not meant to sit on my desk and us not to visit the comprehensive plan on a daily basis. So this is a living, amendable, changeable document. We need to review as we get cases, and as we've had cases, is the comprehensive plan working? Are there changing conditions either in the unincorporated section or inside city limits that would dictate that we need to make changes to this? As good a job as I think everybody did, I would find it hard to believe that we got it exactly right the first time. So I would expect that we're going to make some changes at some point to this document. Shane is going to talk, after I'm done speaking, about the implementation progress and how we go about implementing the strategies and goals and how we measure that progress. And probably my favorite reason is the comp plan says we have to review it. So it's kind of like when you told your kid, why do I have to do this? Because you have to do it. That's why, because I said so. As with everything, the comprehensive plan has a vision statement. So I'm not going to read this, but there's a couple key points that you'll see in the comprehensive plan over and over again. One is collaboration. So we, as the county, need to be the lead in collaborating with outside agencies, local jurisdictions, because we, as land use, only have authority over the unincorporated sections, but what the cities and what those outside agencies do affect what we should or should not be doing. And the other thing that I want to point out in the Compass statement is, talks about balancing urban growth while preserving natural resources. So that's the push and pull that my department deals with on a daily basis, is how do you allow development, but how do you preserve the rural nature of Clay County? I don't know that I have the answer to that question. So the comp plan guides us in a couple ways. The biggest way is in the land use. Obviously, you all deal with that on a monthly basis as we bring cases to you. The comp plan talks about preserving farmland, but it also talks about allowing development. There is commercial and industrial along major roadways. The comp plan also dictates what size lots you can do in certain areas. Those vary from city-sized lots connected to a sewer to areas of the county that the minimum lot size is 40-plus acres, guided by the comp plan. And then, as I spoke earlier with that LDC alignment, we have started a complete revision of the Land Development Code. It's a big project. We're going to need help. from this board, from the county commission, outside agencies. But to give you a couple examples, the comp plan talks about conservation districts because that's a way to allow a interior streeted subdivision, but also preserve some of the rural character of unincorporated Clay County. So what that is it allows cluster development as long as you have a certain amount of open space. Currently, the Land Development Code does talk about conservation districts. However, it needs to be updated and aligned with the new comprehensive plan. And then another example is the zoning classifications. There are 10 land use tiers that you all see in that land use map on a monthly basis, and we need to align our zoning classifications to match those tiers. And I should have said, I'm going to go through a lot of information, and then Shane's going to go through a lot of information. I think it might be best if you let us, and you're doing a great job, get through this, and then we're happy to answer any questions you have maybe at the end, because we may answer some of your questions as we go along. So comp plan versus land development code, I was trying to think of a good way to give you an example, and the best thing I came up with was a baseball example. I don't know how many people are baseball fans, but baseball has their rule book, right? So they're, if somebody hits the ball and it hits the foul pole, it's a home run. Well, it should be the fair pole then, right? But that's in the rule book. So that's what the land development code is it's rules and regulations. It could be anything from how many dogs and cats you can have to how wide your lot needs to be if you're subdividing. The comprehensive plan is more of the unwritten rules of baseball. So they're not in writing, but if the opposing pitcher has a no-hitter, you're not supposed to try to bunt for a hit in the 8th inning. It's not in the rule book, but it's not proper etiquette, I guess, for baseball. So the comp plan is a long-range vision that's not black and white. It does have some flexibility, but it tells us where we should be going or heading as a county, and the day in and day out rules for the land development code tell us how we get there. So land use map, this is the part of the comprehensive plan that most folks are interested in because it dictates what they can and can't do as far as lot sizes on their property. There are 10 tiers on the land use map, and it is designed to develop from the city outwards. So it gives us guidance on lot sizes. As I said earlier, those go anywhere from city-sized lots to 40-plus acre lots. They include commercial, industrial. There is a transition area between the smaller lots and the 20-plus acre lots. And there is a managed growth area around city limits to get the input or the collaboration with the city. And there is an option table that adds options for property owners if they can't initially do what they want to do in that land use map. So there's the land use map. I'm not going to go in detail. Happy to answer any questions on it, but you'll see that on a monthly basis as we present cases to you. I did want to go over the cases we've received so far since adoption to give you an idea of what we've seen. So we've had a total of 52 cases. 11 of those were variance cases, so this board didn't see those. And those weren't really comp plan related. Those were more land development code related. There were 41 planning cases, and of those 41, 11 of them fell within the managed growth area where we reached out to the city for comments. Now, to date, I think staff's opinion of that managed growth area is that it's generally working and it hasn't been a big issue as of yet. So I mentioned the option table. Of those 41 cases, technically only 2 of the cases have used that option table. 2 of them used the option of a farmstead dwelling, which allows a house that was built pre-1985 to be put on a 5-acre lot, even if it's in a 20 or a 40-acre area. So that's been used twice. Now, one of those cases that used the farmstead dwelling exception also used the half-mile radius. That's where if somebody comes to us and says, hey, I want to do 10-acre lots, but they're in a 20-acre area, there is an option that says, hey, we measure half-mile radius and whatever that median lot size is within that half-mile radius, they can match that median lot size. So we've had one case do that. So 39 of the cases have not needed at all to use that option table. They've just met the guidance in the comprehensive plan. So, potential discussion topics. So we always wrestle with, are we giving the property owners sufficient flexibility with the comprehensive plan? Are we giving them too much with that option table? Obviously, I just stated the option table hasn't been used that much. So as far as staff's concerned, it hasn't been an issue as of yet. We talked about the agricultural preservation versus development. How do we balance that? I think the board obviously is aware that the initial comp plan proposal did not include that option table. So it was more strict with the agricultural preservation, but we compromised and included some of that. Commercial, we have had no commercial applications since the comp plan has been adopted. One thing I do want you to think about as we move forward is the conservation district. I grabbed the wrong one. So in those 10 land use tiers, the conservation district is allowed, if I can get to the right one here. So the conservation district is allowed in every district other than the agricultural preserve area, which is the 40-plus acre area. So what that means is if somebody came to my staff and let's just say in a 20-acre minimum area, let's say north of Kearney, they wanted to do an interior streeted subdivision. If they met the requirements of the conservation district, that development would be compatible with the comprehensive plan. So what that could cause is, hey, we're doing development north of Kearney, but we haven't developed out from Kearney yet. Now, we haven't had any applications for that yet, but that's something to consider. Now, also consider, just because something's consistent with the comprehensive plan doesn't mean it has to be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. You see on a monthly basis, typically these cases are going to include a rezoning and a platting. So there are 5 or 6 rezoning criteria and some platting criteria. And just because it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, if it doesn't meet one of those rezoning criteria, then it should not be approved. You can be consistent with the comp plan, but not consistent with the rezoning criteria.
Where do we see the difference in those rules? Where do you find them?
Hit your microphone for me, just.
Where do you find those rules, those differences between the zoning and the platting?
Are you asking where you find the rezoning criteria?
Can you find that in this 2040 document, or?
No, so that's how the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan work together. So the rezoning criteria are in the Land Development Code.
Okay.
And those will be part of you'll see those on a monthly basis in the report that we send to the board as well. And that's what we stress.
Okay.
When you're looking at a case, it doesn't matter if we have 50 people behind us that are opposing, or if we have 0 people behind us because nobody's against us. To me, that doesn't matter. It matters, do they meet those criteria? Are they consistent with the comprehensive plan? And do they meet those rezoning and preliminary plat criteria? Because just because the neighbors don't like it, if it's consistent with the county's regulations, it should be approved, in my opinion. Then I think at the last meeting, there was some discussion about if we do that half-mile radius and we keep doing it, it's going to make the lot sizes smaller and smaller. That's something to think about as well. As I stated, a year and a half into it, it hasn't created that yet, but that's something we need to keep an eye on. Talked about the managed growth area and the land development code. So that's a lot of information really quick. I'm going to let Shane talk about the implementation and the kind of the goals and strategies, and then we'll both come back and answer any questions you have.
I have a question, please, Kip.
Oh, yep.
You mentioned about the land development code and the development or the growth. You talked about from the city limits out, and then we talked about a little bit about the rural side encroaching on the city limits. Are you seeing a pattern where there's more encroachment going towards the city limits, or the city limits going out into the rural?
Well, definitely the cities are moving out. Hopefully, at some point, they get to a point where they can't provide infrastructure and they start redeveloping the urban core, but that hasn't started as of yet.
Did you say urban core?
Yes.
Is that addressed at all in the Compass 40?
No, because we can't regulate that.
That'd be up to the municipalities?
That'd be up to the cities. Yes.
Isn't that typically, though, the pattern of development starts inner city, works out? Once it gets too far where people can't get to work, they start coming back toward the center and it repeats.
Yes, it should. And hopefully we're close. If you look at the, part of the comp plan has the annexation map, and there's not a whole lot that the cities indicated they were looking at annexing. Of course, then I say that, and Excelsior and Mosby Excelsior's talking about, or they're planning on annexing, do you remember how many? It was hundreds of acres. But I would recommend you look at that annexation map in the comprehensive plan, because if the cities were being truthful with us, they don't have a huge amount of land that they're looking at annexing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Alrighty. So my part of this presentation, we're going over the implementation plan. So like Kip had said before, the comprehensive plan is a guide. The great thing about this comprehensive plan, though, is it also gives us an action plan as part of that implementation. The action plan is in Section 8 of the comprehensive plan. It outlines specific actions for departments, organizations, and agencies to help implement the plan's recommendations. It serves as a decision-making guide for county staff and partners when addressing infrastructure, environmental concerns, and related opportunities. And within the implementation plan, there is what we call the implementation matrix. There are tables located within this section, and it outlines the goals and strategies from each chapter of the overall comprehensive plan. The tables within it, and I have one up on the screen. It's a little hard to see, but I'll go over that. The tables identify specific actions that are needed to achieve the goals. This matrix is something that should be reviewed to track the progress and stay aligned with the county's needs. The example on the screen there is from the implementation matrix, and the specific goal is detailing the needs for a parks master plan. I use this example because this is something that is currently ongoing. So something that is actively within this comprehensive plan that is being worked on. The elements of the matrix, so it's broken down into 5 different categories: land use, economy, mobility, environment, and collaboration. Each element outlines its goals and strategies, includes a timeline for completion, and identifies agencies for the county, for county departments involved. And that will be this one. So just kind of give you guys an idea. So there's over 140 different goals within goals and strategies that need to be completed. What's on the screen right now are the different goals or the different departments, and shows what these departments are attached to, how many goals within our comprehensive plan. You can see the county administration is up to 111. Obviously, planning and zoning has 100, over 100. But really, what the goal for showing this is just to show you how wide-ranging this comprehensive plan is. Not just, it's not just something that's created in a vacuum in planning and zoning. It's something that expands across just our office. So it breaks down, also within this, breaks down the time frame. Some actions were able to begin immediately and continue throughout the life of the plan. Others require additional time and preparation and may take several years to complete. For example, spoke with Road and Bridge, talks about a master plan for a transportation master plan. And that's something that's marked as a long-term goal, which states in there, I believe it's a 10-year range that it has on. So the approach for this implementation plan, so what is it? The implementation plan is a collaborative effort involving county staff as well as local and regional partners. It really takes strong leadership from Clay County, and it's essential to guide, to support, and coordinate these efforts. Over time, assigned partners may change or may be taken off as this plan gets reviewed and updated, along with department name changes and such. But I think just it was a real quick overview of kind of what that implementation plan looks like without going into too much detail.
And it's probably not realistic that we're going to achieve every goal and strategy. We're going to attempt, but there's maybe some that, as you read through them, are not realistic, or the county may not decide to do for whatever reason. But and our plan is to update the board regularly on these goals and strategies. We have to public notice the comp plan once a year, just in case the public wants to make comment, they can come and make comment. And if you notice at the end of the staff report, there were some recommendations as to what the board members can do to help. So definitely pay attention to those, and don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions.
If we're going to open up to the public to have input on the updated or amended compass, just make sure that meeting's like when it's 10 below zero out. So we won't have to be here all night. But I do have a question for Shane or you, Kip. And I could be, maybe Mr. Dagenhart, are subdivisions that are having interior streets and central sewers and water, are they being encouraged or discouraged?
So they are being encouraged, but only in the managed growth area, which is the 1 mile buffer around the cities.
Okay.
So that's what we, as long as the city is good with it, then that's the kind of development we typically want. We want to go from right next to the cities to, with some, in my eye, some slightly larger than city lots, then to 3-acre lots, then to 5, then to 20, then to...
Okay. All right, that answers my question. Thank you.
So that's been one of my concerns. So when you get to a 3-acre lot, and let's say you've blown through the managed growth area, Now you get those 3-acre lots. How do you develop that? You'd have to buy it all.
Yeah, you don't, and I think that's,
Well, aren't you then limiting? I
That-
mean, are you really putting a line on where development's really going to occur?
agreed, and that's where that back and forth and where is the proper line, because to me, at some point, I mean, there needs to be that line. It shouldn't be, well, I shouldn't speak for the cities, but I can't imagine that the cities can provide infrastructure and services for all of unincorporated. So at
So-
some point, there's got to be a transition.
So we go back to what we were just talking about, how that logical growth of city goes goes in rings until it gets out to where it's too far inconvenient for people to get back in. Well, this plan, and that's just the market. That's just the market determining where that outside ring is going to be. When the county draws the line, the county's saying where that's going to stop. So do you see, I see some issues with that. I do. I would rather, if you're going to allow, and I understand wanting to have these smaller lots closer to the city, that makes sense. But I also see a place for, smaller lots with with streets and a central sewer plant where that the city hits that, it can easily develop around that. And it's not some oddball 5-acre tracts inside these postage stamp sized lots that are now more urban. I guess that's the problem I had with the Compass plan all along, is that line that we're drawing, and it really doesn't allow development of the cities to go beyond there.
Yeah, and so that's something the board can keep an eye on. And if we have cases, that's obviously something that could be amended if it becomes an issue. But yes, you make good points.
Yeah. And back to, and I think it's really smart to have the central plants in place because normally of course, those sewer lines are all going to run through the natural drainage. So when the city does get to that central plant will also be discharging into that natural drainage. So it would be really easy for a city to connect where that central plant was collecting everything and take it off. I know we had a recent development where there was an option to do central plant, and the developer went to 3-acre lots to do individual sewer or septics. I think that was a really big mistake. I'm really against that. Just because I've sat on sewer boards and I know how people treat their sewer, so it was a low pressure system where, the effluent would run to a tank, it would sit, and then it would pump to the central plant. Well, the only time we got a call, and there are some things that people need to do to kind of maintain that system from their house to that tank. And the only time we got a call is when the sewer's backing up in the house, because they just ignore it. And I think it's the same way with septic systems. They get the initial permit, it's all good until they get water running, back into their place. They don't maintain them, I guess that's my point. They just don't maintain them like they should. And so a central plant, at least you have an operator running that, making sure everything's kind of working like it should. We're not getting untreated sewage running into streams. So.
And I guess I should add, so with the land use tiers the way they are now, they go from managed growth to 5 acres in most cases. So there isn't a 3-acre land use tier. However, within that managed growth area, if the city says, if somebody proposes a 3-acre development and the city says, yes, we want large lot residential in that area, then we would deem that consistent with the comprehensive plan. Now, also, please keep in mind that all of the stakeholders were brought in on the comprehensive plan. The cities, citizens, and the culmination of this plan is what they wanted.
So the people who showed up.
Correct,
People
and I
typically
can't
don't
make people show
participate
up.
until they have a problem.
Agree.
So it seems that it's up to the city. The city's the one that's going to put the limit on its growth then, because it can refuse to have 3-acre lots in order to go up to the 5-acre lots And therefore, you don't have that 3-acre buffer that you're worried about that you can't get through. If the city doesn't approve those, then they're watching out for their future. If they approve it, then it's on the city, not really the county that's doing it.
Yeah, but then they have to have the foresight to think about what that city's gonna be. I mean, they can, I understand what you're saying, but when you hit those 3-acre lots, when the city runs out of room, and now you're facing 3 to 5 acre lots, it's very hard to develop through that. You can't backtrack, and so I'd rather see those, a smaller lot size with a central sewer in that area, because it's very easy to work around that. 5 acres is tough to get around. And then you've got streets to maintain. I mean, there's just a whole plethora of problems you run into. More street frontage on a 5-acre lot, you got a lot more street frontage, lower taxes, so, it's tough.
And that's where those rezoning criteria come in, because if one of those talks about the county and other service providers being able to provide sufficient service to those lots. So if somebody's proposing a 5-acre lots with all this interior street, and it doesn't make sense for the county to take those streets into the county road system, then that's a reason to deny it. I asked Shane to show you the annexation map, because that 1 mile radius goes well beyond the areas that the city's marked for annexation. So anything in color outside the city is what they indicated to us during the meetings that they were thinking about annexing.
The city limits are the darker gray areas,
Yes.
and the orange are the contemplated,
Orange,
Annexation.
green, pink, blue.
okay.
And I would recommend that you take a look at that map in the comp plan, because it does break down what they're looking as far as residential or commercial in those areas as well. It's an interesting map.
And what's their time horizon that they look at? Are they looking at 10 years, 20 years?
Well, we presented this as Clay County Compass 2040, so we're looking at least 15 years out.
Yeah. I see it, what we do here lasts way longer than 15. I mean, decisions made here that go on deeds will outlive everybody in this room. So.
And you can see an example of that with
Just a little bit.
the 3-acre lots that Kearney annexed around. So that's an example of what you're talking about, Mark. So that little island right in the center of Kearney is something they've chosen not to annex.
Interesting, isn't it?
Those areas are already built out though, aren't they?
Can you scroll
They
down
are,
a little bit?
yes.
Look at this big, move it down so you see the Liberty. Yeah.
So that begs the question, the area around Kearney that they're not annexing, what's going on there? What is that? Is it?
Where they're indicating that they,
infrastructure to it, or why aren't they annexing that?
it's
Want to be annexed.
It's what?
They probably don't want to be annexed, they're existing homeowners.
Yeah.
They're
But-
not asking to be annexed.
but this is the city, so I'm sure it's most likely revolves around sewer issues.
That's what I was guessing, yeah.
Could you show us Kearney, Shane?
Like gray blob in the middle of Kearney, right? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, that was what I was referring to, yeah.
I don't mean to regress the meeting, but it seems like, I'm thinking we turned down 2 3-acre applications. One was there along 92 Highway by Show Me Real Estate. The other one was presented by Steve Borger. Are we still leaning or accepting or approving 3-acre developments?
Sorry, with the land use tiers the way they are, the smallest lot that the comp plan calls for is 5 acres. However, lots smaller than that could be put in that managed growth area with approval or non-objection from the closest city. So it doesn't specifically ask for 3-acre lots, but they could be done.
With approval from the adjoining municipality,
Yes.
and it would not require central sewer.
Well, so, good point. And that's another reason to revise the land development code, because right now the land development code requires 5 acres for a septic. Now, the Clay County Public Health Center allows septics on 3+ acres. So that will be a topic of discussion amongst this board as to whether that should change to 3 acres or we should keep it at 5 acres. And Shane, can you go to the land use map? So
So right now, the Clay County Health Department approves a 3-acre tract for individual septic or individual
Correct.
sewer. But the county, the land development code is 5 acres.
correct.
You know, if you think about it, though, I go back to the subdivision that they were trying to put in on WHB. And there were 7-acre lots right next to 92 Highway, right coming up the side of WHB. And then behind, the gentleman was looking at 43-acre lots, 43-acre lots. And when you look at that, the traffic on the infrastructure around there, like WHB Road or some of those that go on back 92 Highway coming out onto 92, there's that hill there. And it now, there's been a couple of times where they have a truck pulling out that has done construction right in that area, and you pop over that hill on 92 going east, and you better slam on your brakes. So what's it going to be like when there's, you know, cars coming out of there? And then you think about the septic situation, 40 homes with little septics on them. Think about the smell in July if you're one of the landowners that live around it. You know, there's just so much that you have to think about and how it affects everybody around.
Well, I think that's why it was voted down.
Pardon?
That's why it was voted down.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying, when you think about the development coming out, where like Kearney, right around Kearney, there on Jesse James Farm Road, they started the sewer going down there, which was great. You know, start taking that sewer line out a little bit, and then those people that live on that road can have this if they want to pay the money. So, you know, you've got all of that to consider. I think the way that the comprehensive plan is set up today is not bad, but, you know, there's always those exceptions that we can make case by case. So that always makes it a little bit better for everybody. I don't know. It's a hard situation when you have, you know, he says you don't have to think about a whole bunch of people out here, but you do a little bit because that's their quality of life. So you do have to consider that somewhat, you know, whether it's in the plan or it isn't.
Well, and I will add, so that is one of the rezoning criteria talks about having a adverse impact on the neighbors. So that is a consideration. I guess my point was, just because they don't want it, you shouldn't deny it. They should have real reasons, real effects on them. And Shane has the land use map pulled up there. So you can see the brown is the 1 mile around the cities. And then the tan and orange are 5-acre areas. The blue is a transition zone around Smithville Lake. And the green, the middle green is a 20-acre area. The light green is a 40-acre area. And the really dark green that's a small strip is a transition area. So I would tell you, you know, it's hard to see, but it's worth a look on the comp plan to look at those different tiers.
I did want to make one more comment when we were talking about infrastructure. It's something I've been a proponent for years is we charge these road impact fees when developers come in. It's never enough money. We should be leaning on these developers. I mean, cities do it all the time. If a developer comes in, they have to do a half road width improvement, you know, on their side of the road.
Yes.
That money should be the cost on the developer. If they need a traffic signal, that should be a developer cost, and that's something that I think we need to be more aggressive on. And I think those road impact fees are, I mean, those are nothing. I mean, they should be doing, and it'll also, if we do that, it'll make the development progress a little more evenly. You know, this road is already improved, somebody's probably not gonna jump a mile down and do another half road width improvement or whatever needs to be. Just like the intersection widths and all those things, so a truck can pull out without getting in the other lane. I mean, all those things should be on the developer, which we all know they're gonna pass along to on the lot prices, but still, shouldn't be the county's responsibility to make that change, so.
So I think Tom hears you loud and clear. And so items like that, right now we charge a road impact fee just per building permit, which is dictated by the Land Development Code. So that's another item that I'm sure there will be discussion on as we amend the Land Development Code. So as you have items like that, feel free to reach out to Shane and myself and let us know your thoughts as we're working on this, because that's really good input.
Can I say something along those lines to piggyback on Mark? I'm seeing that around that Smithville area. They're approving a lot of pretty high-density stuff. Fourplexes just east of the high school, big another development at about 188th Street, and I think they call it Old Jefferson, just south of Eagle Heights. Well, all those people north of the lake, when they come across, when they want to go to Liberty, they come across the dam, cross 92, and hit Mount Olivet. And so that city's dumping more and more and more traffic on that Mount Olivet Road. But that city is never going to be willing to annex Mount Olivet Road, because I think it's about $1 billion at least to flatten and straighten that road out. And they're going to leave it to the county taxpayers. So I don't know how we can control that. But a lot of these traffic studies you see, they're just looking at them in a vacuum. Well, that's only 32 houses. It only generates 180 trips a day, but they didn't forget about all the other ones approved lately in that corridor of traffic. And I just think it's going to stick the taxpayers with the huge infrastructure costs. So I've always thought there needs to be foresight in the developing the roads and infrastructure before the development happens. We just develop willy-nilly for 20 years and go, wow, look at these road messes we got. They still haven't really fixed Woodland down there where they put in Staley Farms, right? They fixed it, and it's still one lane each way. I'm like, what the heck? It should probably be 2 lanes each way, But yeah, that lack of development. The other thing, when these cities are annexing, they have to promise that they can deliver all city services to these. And I've seen several voluntary annexes, but no sewers. Well, in city sewers a city service. So the truth is, when these folks are annexing in this land, they're not giving those citizens that are going to buy there any more than the county would have given them. They're still going to build their own private sewer systems. So I kind of don't like that. We make these rules, and then the city just annex in the land and throw our rule book out the window, but they're not making them put in sewers or even the private kind of mini sewer systems, what's the right word for it, the sand pits and all that. But even those things fail after, 20 years or something? So, to me, there's a lot of that. I asked you once about that, any responses to the 2040 surveys you sent out? Was there much of a consensus amongst respondees on that?
Can you go to the very end of the comp plan? Where it gives all the statistics. So a couple things, Shane's gonna look up the statistics.
Yeah.
Statistics. So a couple things, that goes back to the collaboration, is the county needs to work with the cities. The cities have been horrible about annexing the right-of-way. We've made some progress on that, where if they, like Mount Olivet, for instance, they did annex half of Mount Olivet when they annexed that land.
They annexed the easy half, though.
Well,
South of 144, it's a roller
when, as they continue to annex, they should annex the rest of the road. But you make very good points. But that goes back to collaboration, and that's what the comprehensive plan talks about quite a bit. So Shane, there is a percentage page where it talks about number of surveys completed.
Yeah, there may not even be any. You might have been so willy-nilly on the responses, you couldn't even make anything.
No, and we'll find it once we get it. I may look through it. Yeah, go ahead.
You just said that Clay County Health Department, their minimum lot size, they accept 3 acres. Clay County Land Development Code's 5 acres. Would it merit discussion between the two entities where they're their land, the lot sizes parallel each other before we get caught in a crossfire?
Yes, and we will, when we get to that section of code, we will include them. Shane has a monthly meeting with the health department, so they will be looped in
Yeah.
as well. So good point.
I would ask Mr. Beggs what he thinks about 3-acre lots.
Yeah, I think I'd like to know how we came to the 5. I'm guessing we came to the 5 acres
Because
from
the
a
three-
different perspective.
because
We
the three were
looking at
failing.
land use,
Yeah.
and the health department is probably looking at what they need for a proper drain field. So, yeah, I think we just ought to decide which way we ought to go. But if we're trying to limit small lots, I think we'd be stuck on the 5, not going to the 3, so.
Yeah.
I always wondered, how do you find a place that passes the morphology test on 3 or even 5 acres? Because I've seen them root around on 10 acres, just to find the one spot where you really prefer that absorption field to be. Oh, that's good, you found it there, that's exactly where I wanted it, right? Looks like, but I'm going, on 10 acres, there's only one spot that would work.
That's how you end up with a sand mound.
Right.
You gotta do something different, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, but, yeah, I've always wondered about some of that science, but I guess it's no good if it didn't work.
Yeah,
Make it worse.
yeah.
Underground better, I think.
So this is page 170 of the comp plan where it talks about the survey. So I'd recommend you read through this, but we received 726 respondents to the survey. And I will tell you, we worked for every single one of those. But it breaks it down further and then talks about each of the questions as you go through here. So it is actually really interesting to read. The thing I found interesting is as you read through all these stats, your mind goes back to different sections of the comp plan. So you kind of see how it was formed by how some of these folks answered the questions and the input we got from the cities and all the outside agencies.
It's kind of ironic that 2/3 of the respondents live in the city limits.
But there's less people in the non-city limits, so maybe that goes to figure, I guess. It's less people, but I think they're also lazy, didn't fill out their survey, right?
What survey?
Yeah,
At least some people responded, yeah, that's not a lot of people, given how many people live in Clay County.
We got 726.
But no, and keep in mind that that survey was available on the website. We had the standalone website. The outside firm attended, Liberty Fall Fest, Jesse James Days. They went to like 5 different events, and that's still the amount we got.
They worked it, for sure.
Yes, yes.
That was-
People don't care until it affects them, I guess, right?
yeah. It was kind of back to my original comment, the input that you got maybe aren't from the people that we really needed to hear from, the people in unincorporated Clay County, so.
And again, we're open to suggestions. If I'm not against, if the board thinks it's a good idea that we send out, comment cards or 2. I'd have to think there's like 13,000 parcels. I'd have to price, but we could consider getting some additional input from just unincorporated citizens. Do you know if that's even mentioned?
I don't know how much response you'd get.
Yeah, and-
I mean, it's again, people don't really get involved until they have a problem, and then they start learning about zoning and all the things that are affecting them all of a sudden. So
And then they would
it's
say-
too bad that they're not more involved in this now because this is going to be here for a while.
The way it's presently written, the powers to be have the authority to make exceptions and make changes. Is that correct? P and Z.
You are the adopting authority for this document, yes. So you have the power
But-
to make changes.
If we have a variance and we want to approve something that doesn't fit the cookie cutter, we can still do that.
You can.
And
They
if we-
don't need a variance. You could just decide to approve
Right.
it.
So be careful what we wish for. If we send out 13,000, polls.
Yeah, maybe we don't want to hear from them, but, But I do wish more people would have responded a little bit, like to keep the rural feel. You know, this whole 2040 thing, you could read in there constantly, it's talking about protecting ag, rural feel, but then it's not exactly happening, you know? It's a lot of development going on. Like you see, you're gonna stop. So hopefully we can kind of control it a little bit. Keep some of this intact. I feel like food's a vital resource. We shouldn't give up all our ability to grow food in this county. Like, need to be self-sufficient one day, right? Like when pork suddenly disappeared in the COVID.
Yeah.
All those.
I have a question for Mr. Degenhart. I think we both know what construction inflation's been like the last 4 years, and I don't know if the formulas that you're working with for the road impact fees, or if they're outdated, and you're still assessing impact fees from using a formula that was outdated 5 years ago, and it's 50% of what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think KIP's the one that collecting the impact fees. Aren't you over that?
It's a flat fee per building permit right now because the previous county commission changed it.
Well, flat fees they need to be increased appropriately. I mean, construction inflation's been, 12% per year for the last 4 years. And I don't know if your impact fees are keeping up with that.
Oh, I'm sure they're not. So I would say this board will have the ability to make a recommendation of what that fee should be to the county commission.
And we can also index it to inflation?
Yeah.
You can make that recommendation. It really should be something that's approved by the county commission in the yearly fee schedule. So the commission will look at it once a year. But yeah, we could recommend that to them.
We can set the fees, but the county commission has to approve it.
They do. So that's the unique thing.
What are we here for?
Well, you are the adopting authority on the comp plan, but the county commission is the adopting authority on the land development code. You just make a recommendation.
It's like any board. We appoint these boards, and then we damn well better listen to what they bring to us and say that, we recommend that this is the way we want it to be. And most normally, we try to go along with that. I don't think we put the board members down, for sure. But I think it would be good if Tom, I don't know if everybody knows what the fees are, but if you could send out an email to all the board members and let them know exactly what those fees are, and then that way, we could kind of, each of us make up our minds why we think they ought to be, and then come to a consensus together, but at least we have the basic for, looking at it.
And that's included in the planning and zoning fee schedule, so we'll plan on sending you our entire fee schedule so you can take a look.
Good.
So we're happy with any other questions or, I know it's a lot. Again, we're not looking for anything tonight, just wanted to start the discussion, and we will be updating you as we go along. But don't hesitate to reach out to us individually if you have questions or if there's one specific issue that you are passionate about.
Is there any other business then?
What do you want us to do for the meantime? Come up with some ideas and submit them? Is that our assignment?
Yeah, I would say at this point, just look at the recommendations that we made in the staff report, study the comprehensive plan because there's a lot there, and as you have questions, come to Shane and I. And then if you want to start looking through the land development code on things you're passionate about, let us know what you're thinking as you look through it. I've got to figure out how we're going to present the land development code to you because it's 273 pages. So we're going to have to do it in sections. So I'm still working on that. I also do want to mention that we do have a meeting in 2 weeks. So, and we have a proposed interior streeted subdivision. So the cases are probably going to start coming. So be prepared for that. I would expect it to be probably a longer meeting because I would expect we would have some input from neighbors. And that's, I think, all we have, other than, if you did not see Emily in the back, she is our new admin specialist, so please feel free to say hi to Emily. She's here to help you as well.
She's a new what?
Administrative specialist
In your office?
in our office, yes.
All right, if there's no other business, meeting's adjourned. So, interior street development. Did I hear him right that if there's enough conservation set aside, that those can be north of Kearney on a 20-acre lot?